Welcome back, everyone. Check this out. I'm not very good at making beef Wellington, but I found this recipe for ground beef Wellington, and that's what we're going to make today. So let's get to it. I'm hungry. So first thing we need is some ground beef. Obviously, I've got a pound of ground beef, and I chopped up some parsley. Along with that, that's 8 ounces of mushrooms chopped up fine. I also chopped up half a large onion, and we're going to put all that together in a frying pan so it can all go together right now. So here's our main ingredients that we're going to use for our ground beef Wellington. We'll put the onions and mushrooms aside for a second, and let's bring out our ground beef. So to our parsley and ground beef, we're going to add 2 eggs. There's 1. And there's 2. And of course, if you want to add some salt, pepper, garlic powder, go right ahead. We're going to put some breadcrumbs in. Now, I'm not eyeballing it like I usually do. I'm actually following the recipe because I didn't want to overdo it. This is 4 tablespoons of breadcrumbs and 1 good tablespoon of cream. Alright, so we're going to mix all this up. The spoon doesn't work, so we're just going to end up doing it by hand. Okay, right here I added a little bit of salt. And then we're going to set it aside. Over to our frying pan. It's a couple tablespoons of butter. And we're going to let that melt down. And in goes our mushrooms and onions, just like that. And since they're both cooking, you could do them separately if you wanted. You know what? They're going to take the same amount of time no matter what. Once they're just about done, this is going to be 2 good teaspoons of minced garlic. If you want to do the real, do the real. I just didn't have any cloves on me to utilize. Here's the fun part. Half a cup of red wine. Then we're going to mix this around. And we're going to let it cook down till the liquid reduces. Until it's pretty well evaporated and absorbed into the mushrooms and onions. So you can see it's starting to get close. Once it's almost evaporated, we're going to pull it off, put it on a plate, let it cool down a little bit. Meanwhile, over to our cutting board, a little bit of flour, and we're not making our own dough. We're going to use puff pastry. So I got this puff pastry, 1 roll of it. It should be good, unless you're making for a ginormous family. This will make us 4 good ground beef Wellingtons. So we're going to roll it out. I'm trying to make sure it's not too sticky. Now, of course, once I get all the stuff off, all the paper off, I've got to get this ready to cut. And of course, I flip it once and I'm already pulling at it, so it's not nice and even. We'll make it work. So I just got a butter knife, and I'm scoring it to cut it in half. And then the other way to cut it into quarters. And you see it's not perfect, but we can still make it work out. The dough is a little stretchy, so I think we'll be okay. Now I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this. I thought about stacking them up. And then I thought better of it, because if I stack them up, even with a little bit of flour in that, they could still stick together by the time I get to them. And I really don't want to fight with it, so I've got the 4 pieces out. I pulled a baking sheet with some parchment paper. Now there's our onions and mushrooms, and you see there's still a little bit of steam on them, so they're not perfectly cool, but we can work with them. So I've got the first one we're going to work out. I brought our ground beef mixture over. And we'll see if we can do this. So first up, we're going to put a quarter of our mushrooms and onions. Mush that around. Spread it out. You don't go all the way to the edges. Kind of leave it like that. Now we're going to take a good bit of our ground beef, and yes, it's not cooked, but it's going in the oven, so it will cook. That looks good. Now my nephew's having it. He didn't want any cheese, so there's no cheese on this one. But we are going to put cheese on the other ones. Surprise. You fold the corners over, and then you want to fold the other corners into it because you want it as sealed as possible. And then you're going to take it upside down. The seams go to the bottom and onto the baking sheet. So here's our second one. And here's the cheese I was telling you about. You build them the same way. All 4 of these was done the same way. I did 3 with cheese and the 1 without. And that's just shredded mozzarella. So now we're going to take the corners and you kind of pinch them. Can be a little tricky. And then grab the other corners. Okay. And then we just grab the other ends and kind of bring that in. And if there's still some openings, which you can see on the edges, then you just bring that together. See? Like that. And then when it's all done, it should be nice and sealed. There. That looks good. Flip it over, seam side down, obviously. Yummy. And then we'll get the other 2 done. And there's our 4 ground beef Wellingtons. Poker, make some air holes. This is going to go in the oven 400 degrees, 30 to 40 minutes till nice and golden brown like that. If you want them even browner, I could have put some egg wash on them before they went in the oven. I didn't. You could do that. But there you go. Don't they look yummy? And you can see they're strong enough. I can use tongs to actually pick them up off the baking sheet. Just got to be careful so you don't puncture them, but they're strong enough that they will hold together. We get them on a plate so you can see. And there you go. Look at that. That looks really good. Absolutely, that looks good. They turned out nice. And there's one individual. That's kind of the one I'm going to have. And there you have it. Who would have thought? Ground beef Wellington. Hey, another great recipe. I hope you'll give it a try. Leave me a comment below, one way or the other. Listen, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell because that'll tell you the next time I upload a video. Feel free to share this and any of my other videos. And thanks for stopping by and watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.